Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Boston Art Commission. My name is Alexandra Polzotov, and I'm the Public Art Registrar in the Mayor's Office of Art and Culture. In that capacity, I'm also the administrator of the Boston Art Commission. Let's take a moment just to update our names and our pronouns, as well as making sure we're muted. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. As a reminder, this was extended until 2025. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Boston Art Commission, the public can join this meeting through telephone and video conferencing. For those of you who are with us, today, this meeting is being recorded and closed captioning is available. You can access it at the bottom of your screen. If you're having trouble locating the button, please chat us for assistance.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everybody, and thanks for being here. I'm Karen Goodfellow. I'm the Director of Public Art at the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And at the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, we, with the Boston Art Commission, believe that public art is any artwork installed in publicly accessible spaces where they can be experienced by everyone for free. And for transparency and community input, artworks proposed for a City of Boston property are reviewed and discussed at these public meetings of the Boston Art Commission on a regular and usually monthly basis. Working together with the public art team and in the Mayor's office, the Boston Art Commission is an independent board composed of 2 ex officio and 7 volunteer community members appointed by the mayor. The BAC has exclusive authority to approve and commission artworks intended to be added to the city's collection or placed on city property. The public art team in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture facilitates the Boston Art Commission public meetings, like today, manages all phases, daily operations, and duties related to public art projects cited on or proposed for city property in collaboration with the Boston Art Commission, community members, and colleagues at the City of Boston. Helping to facilitate this meeting are Amber Torres, Public Art Project Manager, and Alexandra Polzotov, Public Art Registrar. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or comments at bac@boston.gov. I will hand it over to Chair John Andrus.
Thanks, Karen, and welcome everyone. I call this public hearing to order at 4:33 p.m. Today, the Commission is holding its monthly public meeting. Our meetings are generally held on the second Tuesday of every month, and I hope you'll continue to join us. We engage in discussions about public art in Boston in order to foster the creation and collection of artworks that reflect the people, ideas, histories, and futures of Boston, which is located on the traditional homeland of the Massachusetts people and the neighboring Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge the atrocities committed against Indigenous peoples, all of the communities that have been subsequently harmed, and the ways in which colonialism has created systemic oppression. We recognize the continuing presence of these communities and the Indigenous peoples represented in the city's residents, in addition to those in the diaspora. We also recognize that Boston exists as a result of the forced labor and economic extraction from enslaved African Americans. I'll now take a roll call of the commissioners to confirm a quorum. After I state your name, commissioners, please say here. I begin with Vice Chair Camilo Alvarez.
Here.
Cara Elliott Ortega.
Here.
Diana Fernandez Bibo. Robert Freeman. Brian Hone.
Here.
Nigel Jacob.
Here.
James Mason.
Here.
And Abigail Norman.
Here.
And we have a quorum. Thanks very much. On this slide, you'll see today's agenda, which is also posted publicly on the city's website, boston.gov. We'll now review meeting minutes from the March meeting. Are there any comments or modifications any commissioner would like to make? Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Thanks, Camilo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks so much, Brian. Commissioners, when I call your names, please say yes if you agree to approve the meeting minutes from April 9th, 2024. Camilo,
Yes.
Cara,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Abigail,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so the motion passes. I'll now turn it over to Karen Goodfellow, who will highlight the presentations for public review and give her director's report next.
All right, thank you. Before I jump in, I just was starting to respond to a question in the chat about when the appropriate time for the public to ask questions. So I didn't finish typing it. So I'll just share that the public can ask questions at the discretion of the chair. And if it's about a presentation, we usually hold time that the chair offers up. And if it's about something else, then I think you can maybe propose in the chat as I'm just giving this bit of information, and then the chair can see if this is the right time. Does that make sense? All right, so we have 3 presentations for review today. The first project on the docket this afternoon is Nature Along the Greenway, a long-term mural on the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway in East Boston. That's by the artist Yetti Frenkel. And the second project is Gulf Stream, a temporary artwork in the Charlestown Navy Yard, which is part of the Unmonument Initiative by Hugh Hayden with the Boston Public Art Triennial. And lastly, our third project is a yet to be titled long-term artwork by Priscila De Carvalho at the Adams Street branch of the Boston Public Library, which is here for preliminary design review. And we have a number of updates for you as well. To prevent further delays on the Vine Street interior vinyl mural, Destiny Palmer, the artist, and project manager Amber Torres are planning to propose a hand-painted installation instead of the vinyl. The next steps for that are for them to review and confirm this proposed change of plans with the BCYF Vine Center staff and the central team at BCYF, and then to present an amended proposal to the BAC, hopefully next month. And regarding Bookmark by Stu Schechter, initiated by the Friends of the Mattapan branch of the Boston Public Library, the artist has made some minor adjustments to the design, resulting in updates to some text on the book spines and lowering the height to be now 11 feet, 132 inches. And the artist is restarting conversations with the fabricator, and we will share updates from them as we get them. And we hope that they will install later this year. Limerichy Fraser's call and response for Engine 42 is still in fabrication, and it's continuing to move forward toward the targeted completion date at the end of July 2024. And they anticipate that they will begin assembling the structure at the end of this month. And we got some fun photos, and you can see one of those on the slide there. Artist Ria Vedro is currently in fabrication for Amulet at City Hall Plaza. Project manager Amber Torres has met regularly with the artist and Christina Kilday from Property Management, as well as SGH and BRM to work toward a late summer installation. Artist Jenny Sabin is in town tonight for a community meeting to gather input regarding the updated designs for the Ruggles Corridor project. She's incorporating guidance she received from the Disabilities Commission, the Public Improvement Commission, and the Public Works Department. Jenny Sabin is currently refining 3 of her 6 newly proposed sites that she hopes to present to the BAC very soon, and you can see a preliminary design for one of the sites in the slide here. So we do hope that that will come in soon. And we have officially re-signed agreements with the Coconut Grove Memorial, DeWitt Playground, and as well as the Chinatown Statues projects by Wen Sen, and those are all awaiting approval by legal, so we're hoping to start moving on those again. And we are also very excited that Gio Gofai Ortega and Luis Taekwan Teforo have just completed a Legacy of Color, which is a mural at the Shelbourne Community Center right by Malcolm X Park. And the unveiling for that is taking place this Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m. So we really hope that you can join us for that. And you can see here the social media invitation, but you can see the mural in the background there, and it's really quite beautiful, and I hope you can join. We also wanted to give some updates on commissioning, including for Unmonument. As you know, we received a $3 million grant from the Mellon Foundation in order to meet the Monument Project's goals of really telling American stories and fostering multivocal participation in the shaping of our national commemorative landscape. And to do that here in Boston, we are partnering with a number of amazing partners, and you can see them listed here on the slide on your screen. And this is going to be a 2-year project. And as part of that, we are subgranting to 5 nonprofits, or 6 really, to work along with us. And we wanted to share some updates with you on the work that they're doing. Firstly, we wanted to share that the artist augmented reality workshops are in process. We're really excited to be working with augmented reality as part of this project in reimagining monuments, and doing so with Emerson Contemporary. Due to the novelty of the technology and the high threshold to get started in making new media art, Emerson Contemporary will run an art and technology incubator this spring to provide creative technology training for emerging and mid-career artists interested in expanding and diversifying their practice. And in that workshop, we have a full roster of 10 artists participating. We've had a couple classes take place already. Nicholas Robb from Haverley and Lauren Sufat, an Australian digital artist, have already presented to the class. And other artists who use augmented reality in their practice will be presenting and participating in discussion and critiques with the 10 artists as they prepare proposals to hopefully take place this summer or next. And pictured above is an example of an augmented reality work in response to an existing monument. And Emerson will collaborate with the Friends of the Public Garden to stage a projection intervention including the Founders Monument and some other projects for consideration by the artists. Emerson is also going to be working with the artist Camila Janan Rashid. She is their spring artist in residence. And as a way of reimagining and fostering discourse around Boston's monuments and memorials in a way that centers and amplifies multiplicity of voices, they are commissioning her to respond to various Boston monuments through digital and analog exhibition in public space. And she's taking particular interest in transportation ad spaces. Another curatorial collaborator that we're working with is the National Center of Afro-American Artists. They're going to bring together Paul Goodnight, Robert Problack Gibbs, Robert Stull, Limerchi Fraser, Lawrence Pierce, Shea Justice, Hakeem Rakib, and Janetta Tinker to create an exhibition and forum. And building on a strong tradition of challenging misrepresentation and positing new stories and narratives, the exhibition will respond to this moment to widen understanding of the past that we share. Working with various community partners and entitled Cancel Violence, Artists Speak, the collaborative project is anchored by 2 tenets: that artists have a responsibility to use their art for positive social benefits to their community, and that positive social change requires dialogue and engagement across the entire impacted community. We will also be working with the North American Indian Center of Boston, or NICOB. Building on over 50 years of advocacy for the urban indigenous population of the city of Boston, NICOB has proposed the reactivation of their building, Jamaica Plain on South Huntington, as a monument. And through a combination of approaches such as landscape architecture, archival research, and visual art that will seek to remember the many stories and oral traditions among the indigenous population, they will further explore the deeper history of that site. And we also have here Now and There, the Boston Public Art Triennial, who will be participating as a curatorial collaborator as well. They are actually here to present today, so I won't say much about them, but that they will be hosting artworks at the Navy Yard this summer, including works by Yetti Frenkel, Matthew Okazaki, and Hugh Hayden. Again, they're presenting, so I won't go too deep into their projects here. And finally, we are another curatorial collaborator is the Powell Arts Center. And they are really thinking really broadly about the work that they've been doing and pulling artwork into that. They are working with curator Lani Asuncion on a series of 3 to 5 temporary public art and performance place-based projects and events showcasing and uplifting underrepresented Asian American and Pacific Islander identities and voices, while considering how public interventions can inspire residents, visitors, and artists, all sharing part in the efforts to preserve and celebrate Chinatown as not only a neighborhood, but a cultural hub and monument within the city of Boston. So as you can see, each of our curatorial collaborators is really taking a different understanding of what we mean when we're talking about monuments, and we're thrilled with that. These works, as you know, will be complemented by the open call to artists that we put out recently, and also public programs that we are curating along with the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University with the Friends of the Public Art and Embrace Boston. These public programs and speaking public conversations will be followed by events and will be informed by an advisory team that we are just finalizing right now. And we have some draft dates here on the screen. We're still finalizing those. We have vetted them with the Friends and we have vetted them with Embrace Boston. And now we're working to see what works with the speakers we're hoping to bring in. So these are potential dates that we will be having the events take place, and we will bring you an update once we have that. And our last partner that we'll update you on today is MassArt, who is our partner in education, interpretation, and oral histories. And we are working together with them to develop educational and interpretive materials, including plaques and other signage. And they will be providing content for online educational components for each work that is part of the project. And we're really excited to be working with them, and in particular with Professors Matthew Hintzman and Ryan Diaz, and students from the college, of course. And our last updates are around conservation, around the collection. We do have some great updates. The House Doctor RFP closed, and we selected Daedalus Conservation to be our partner. So we are going to be able to do conservation work this year. We're really excited about that. And next year, we also are really thrilled because Rise, Gateway to Boston by Fern Cunningham and Karen Udemy was reinstalled on May 4th. And we're really thrilled to have that back up. And as she's been doing for a while, Public Art Registrar Paul Zotov has been working really hard, coordinating with the National Park Service and other partners at the City of Boston in the Property Management Department to conserve Webster's reply to Hayne at Faneuil Hall. And with that, I will close out on the report and all the updates for you for what we have going on, in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and hand it back to Chair John Andrus.
Thanks, Karen. So much exciting work and a lot to look forward to this summer. Richard, I saw your question. I'll get back to you shortly, but I want to let the public know how to engage in these conversations first, and then I'll come back to you. We'll now move on to agenda items for review, public testimony, and commission vote. Here is how you can participate in today's meetings. If you have technical difficulties, you can ask questions in the chat, and a member of staff will help you. When public testimony is requested, you can press the raise your hand icon, and we will call on you. If you were calling in, press *9 to raise your hand. And now I'll pass it to Camilo.
Hello?
Camilo, should I take this one? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Our goal is to make this meeting a good experience for all. Please remember to keep your comments on topic, brief, and respectful of others. You can submit longer written testimony to bac@boston.gov. If you are called on, please state your name, title, program, and organization if relevant.
Great.
The
And
first part.
can I interrupt really quickly, Camilo, before we move on to presentations?
Yeah.
Richard, if your questions were related to any of the projects we have coming up, we will have time and space for public testimony. But if they are not, I would invite you to ask those now.
I'm sorry, you'd like me to ask my questions now?
Well, are they related to any of the projects that we have coming up for review?
No.
They are not?
No.
Sure, then feel free to ask.
I have two questions. One is the Sylvia Chavez's mural at the Hernandez School in Eggleston Square. Will that be reviewed by the commission? And when will that begin? Number one question. Number two question, I think the public needs an update on the status of the emancipation group? Thank you.
Sure, Richard, the first question, the Sylvia Lopez Chavez, we as commissioners approved the selection of her for that mural. And Karen or Amber can give an update on timelines for that, or
Yeah.
Liza if she's here.
I don't think she's here, but we're hoping that they'll come in July.
I'm sorry, she will begin in July?
They'll come in, so they're working on designs right now. So the artists have been meeting with students, talking to community, and so they're still developing their designs. And so they've been selected, but they're taking some time to work to develop the proposal, and they'll come back here for the July meeting to share them publicly. And then there'd be an opportunity for you to review those and share feedback if you have any.
Oh, I have no feedback. I'm just a huge fan of her
Yeah.
work. I live in the neighborhood and I can't wait to see her work. But I have no feedback. My opinion is not relevant to this artwork. But the second question is of great interest. Great interest.
Sure. With the Emancipation Group, John, if you don't mind, I can take this one
Oh,
too.
sure, please.
Yeah, we are working still on the loan agreement for the exhibit in LA. So it will be temporarily loaned and then will return to us. So we currently have it in storage. We are really excited about bringing it back to public for conversation, and we'll, as soon as we have updates on that, we'll be sharing it again for the exhibition in 2025.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much,
you.
Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Now, Camila, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks for those questions, Richard. The first project for review today is Nature Along the Greenway, a long-term mural in the final design phase for the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, Maverick Street Bridge Underpass, located at 215 Bremen Street in East Boston by Yetti Frenkel, raised by proponents, friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Millard. I'm the president of the Friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, and I'm pleased to be here with you this afternoon to present our mural proposal for the Greenway. I have with me our project coordinator, our program coordinator, Michelle Moon, and she will run through this presentation along with our artist, Yetti Frenkel. Michelle, I'll let you take it from here.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm Michelle Moon with the Friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway. I was here a couple of months ago to talk about the removal of the existing mural, which thankfully you approved. So thank you for that. So just a quick overview of the project. It's underneath the Maverick Street Bridge on the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway. The wall is approximately 100 feet long and 16 feet tall. We've been in conversations with Amex, which is based out of East Boston, to do the wall prep and the sealant at the end. They have, we've worked with them before to prep the walls and seal the walls, and they've been great. And so we're working on getting this project approved, and we've been going through with talking with community members and with other local nonprofits and with the Friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, and Boston Parks has been a great partner throughout the process. So this is just a quick overview of everything going on. So here's on the bottom, there's a map of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway. You can see Maverick Street Station, and with the hot pink dot, that's where the Maverick Street underpass is on the existing Boston Parks owned section of the Greenway. And a little bit further to the north is Bremen Street Park and the airport. And on the right-hand side, you can see also in hot pink is the condition of the current wall. So very dilapidated, really needs some TLC there. And the pit photo on the bottom is the existing mural that was painted by the mural crew a number of years ago, and that one will be remaining. And so we've also been in touch with MassDOT because they own the bridge structures, and they have fixed the leaking from the bridge, which has caused damage from the previous mural. So that has been great to have that fixed. So we can go into these new murals not having to worry about that as much. And then, as I mentioned, we were here in February to get approval for the removal of the artwork. We were unable unsuccessful to reach the artist after many attempts, but fortunately we're able to get that approved to remove it. And on the Greenway, who uses it? There's a ton of people walking, biking, running, scooting, jumping down the Greenway every single day. I'm sure today it's been very, very busy, like every green space in the Boston area. Everyone's out enjoying spring. And you have people young and old and out there. And also East Boston is an environmental justice community. So a large portion of the folks walking, biking on the Greenway are people of color. And also to note, nearby is a school. And so kids often walk by the Greenway throughout the day as well. Or not throughout the day, after school. They go to school and come back.
Mhm.
And how did we get here? Spring of 2023, we released a call for art that was open for about 5 weeks. We received, I think, 29 applicants, and we had a committee composed of different community members, folks from the Friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, our friends over at Zoomix. We had a couple of youth that were middle schoolers who are on the committee who reviewed it and reviewed all the applications, and we scored them based on their previous experience with murals of the scale, the style and appropriateness, their installation plan, community engagement, and how they're going to complete the project on budget. So the committee reviewed, everyone had a very nice discussion with everything, and in the end we selected Yetti to be the artist to work on this. Oh, and I didn't mention the theme for the request for qualifications was for nature and for art, and that was something that stood out to us in Yetti's work was you know, the strong use of nature that you'll see in the upcoming artwork. And then after we made the selection with the artist, we did some community engagement to collect community ideas. And so we went to a couple of different youth programs to hear their ideas. Yetti came and joined the Greenway Council meeting to hear about what the community members would like to see in the artwork. And then these ideas were incorporated into the mural, into the artwork. And so with the Friends, we were involved throughout the community engagement process to making sure that we were hearing from a wide variety of voices throughout the process. And then this summer we plan to engage, we have a couple of ideas of who could help paint the bottom of the mural at a community painting day. And so we're excited for that as well. Now I'm going to pass it over to Yetti.
Hi, I'm Yetti Frenkel. I'm the artist that was selected to paint this mural, which I think will be beautiful and appreciated by a lot of people. I wanted to include animals that are common along the Greenway, or that people would see, and perhaps that are also a little bit underappreciated, but they are definitely characters of the urban environment, like squirrels and rabbits and crows. They are characters, you know, in their own right. And I also wanted to include some of the birds that are very important, you know, along the waterway. So I've got some ospreys that are seen at Belle Isle Marsh. I think there's an osprey camera there. I included American kestrel, which is also seen at Belle Isle Marsh, great blue heron, an egret, the yellow legs, and some sandpipers. And I also have plants that are very common, the thistle, which is beautiful and attracts a lot of butterflies and pollinators. So I have a painted lady butterfly in there, which was one of the suggestions or one of the drawings that I got from the community engagement, as well as the blue jay. And that area on the right-hand side where the blue jay is, that has the yellow geometric area, that is for the title of the mural and also for the acknowledgements that are going to be part of the you know, acknowledgement of the mural. And then on the left-hand side are some more domestic flowers that you would see in the gardens in front of the library, for instance. There's going to be a wave pattern. So the entire height of the mural, it's 11 feet out of the 16 feet. So the painted area of the mural is approximately 11 feet, or the image area of the mural is about 11 feet. The wave takes up about 3 feet of that. And then the top is painted blue. The last 5 feet is painted blue. So the entire 100 feet by 16 feet is painted. But I wanted to keep my animals human scale. I wanted to make them, you know, not enormous, but sort of not frightening, but friendly. And I think that there's also a nice flow of colors. And that's my goal, is to have people really make this, I don't know, some like an old friend that they visit every day, as they pass, as they, you know, go for their jog or walk their dog, or go to school along the Greenway.
Here we have a couple letters of support, one from the Friends for this artwork, and then also from Boston Parks from Amy Lene, who's been the project manager on the capital improvement projects here. So, and that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Yetti. The commission will now have the opportunity to ask any additional questions. After the commissioner question and answer, we may invite the public to make comments. Any commissioners? Questions?
I have a question. And also just thank you, Yetti and others for your presentation today. It's exciting to see the mural. I'm wondering, Yetti, if you could say a little bit about the decision to leave that kind of blue band at the top, just kind of that simple blue color, rather than, you know, including some kind of imagery in the upper part of the mural as well.
Well, there's a practical consideration in that I have only, you know, I have so much time and energy to put into the project, quite frankly. I mean, this is a lot of work. It's a big space. It's not a huge budget. So I wanted to create what I thought I could do in the time that I have. And I also feel design-wise, I mean, if you add things to that top, it's too much. It's overwhelming. I mean, I have seen a lot of murals that are along the Greenway do not take up the entire wall. They take up a certain space, usually up to about 11 feet or less, actually usually a little bit less. And that to me is a good scale. People don't really necessarily look at the top. Also, now the damage to the road above has been fixed, so hopefully there won't be a lot of leaking. But at the time that I was planning this design, there was a lot of leaking and damage to that upper part, that upper 5 feet or so. So, you know, my feeling was that this is a good design for the space, and raising it was not necessary or desirable. It was, you know, this is my design decision as the artist. I felt that this was a good amount of use of the space, and also practically something that I could do in the time that I have to allot to it.
Yeah, got it. And it's easy, you know, we're just looking at a small little picture, but it's a quite large mural. So definitely,
yeah, it's 11 feet. So you have to figure that's 11 feet of the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. I would, and thank you for, you know, that. I love the areas, and if we could maybe go back a few slides to a larger image of the site. Thank you. I love the kind of areas where some of the birds kind of go beyond the border, you know, like that. The white bird over on the left, how it's kind of breaking the border a little bit. And even maybe, you know, so you don't have to paint that entire section. If there was maybe like 1 or 2 birds that just kind of maybe went a little bit higher and activated that blue space up above, might be a nice way, just so that area doesn't feel kind of forgotten about. Would be maybe just some feedback, but overall love the imagery and the bright colors, and kind of excited for this mural. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Yetti,
commissioners?
Yeah, Yetti, thank you so much for sharing your artwork. And Michelle, thank you so much for the presentation. I am curious, Yetti, you had mentioned that the road has been fixed, but I'm curious if you could discuss briefly some of the materials you're planning to use. because this is a long-term mural installation and thinking about conservation, just a discussion about the materials and what plan you have in place in case there is any conservation that may be needed.
So that's another reason for having an area that doesn't have a lot of imagery in it, is that it is easier to touch up. If there is, I've not had problems with graffiti on my murals, on any of them. So I don't know if I've been fortunate. Most of my friends have not had too much damage done, but I have had some friends who've had some damage done to their murals, but I haven't. But anyway, it's easier to fix something without an image in it than it is to try to touch something up that has it. But that's not really, that's not really not my main concern in designing things the way I did. It really wasn't a concern at all. It's just a fact, right? So I am using Nova Color paint, which I've used for many murals. I have, my oldest mural is about 30 years old. It's in Brookline. And I think because of the type of wall it's painted on, it's on a very rough brick, which I at first thought it would be very difficult to paint. But as it turns out, it's extremely good at holding the paint. So that mural has lasted incredibly well. I mean, it's faded somewhat, but it's still in really relatively good shape. So Nova Color is a really fantastic paint. And it's specifically formulated for murals. And so it has a good UV resistant quality to it. So Amex, after they have prepped the wall and I've painted it, they're going to apply this anti-graffiti varnish over the finished mural. And I have talked to them about, making sure that it's compatible with Nova Color, because I have once painted a mural with Nova Color that somebody used something that was probably similar to a, polyurethane over it. Now that just essentially melted part of it. So Amex has assured me that the varnish that they're using, and they have used it also on other projects along the Greenway. So they've assured me that it's compatible. And so that's anti-graffiti. Now I don't actually know what the removal process is, like if it's a water, if you just use if you wash it off, if you use heat. I'm not sure what that mechanism is. Amex would know, but it's supposed to be an anti-graffiti varnish, meaning that it should be, whatever is put on it should be removable. And I don't know if Michelle knows more about that. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure about removal. We haven't gotten that far with the other murals since they've been holding up really well since we put it on 3 years ago.
But the mural that Michelle has behind her, that has that varnish on it. That's one of the East Boston murals, the Greenway murals, and it has that varnish. So they would be doing the same thing.
And John, I'd also like to add that, the one great thing about having a mural stewarded by a Friends organization as active as we are, is that people are on the Greenway every day. And if there's any issues, there's a 311 call or immediate call to the board or the committee to say, hey, something's happened. And because of that active group, I think that this mural and all the murals on the Greenway do get a regular look and regular maintenance. And if we have issues, we have a great partnership with the Parks Department to try to rectify that.
Thank you all so much.
Definitely, thank you. Are there any other commissioners that may have any questions before we invite the public for any questions and answers? Does anyone from the public? Well, can we set a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move with the final design for the Mary Ellen Welsh Greenway Maverick Street Bridge underpass.
I will second that. And shall we take a vote? Well, John?
Yes.
I am a yes as well. Cara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
And Abigail?
Yes.
Great, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Yetti.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
The next project for review is Gulfstream, a short-term installation by Hugh Hayden proposed by the Boston Public Art Triennial, formerly Now and There. Amber Torres will introduce the project.
Thank you. As one of our curatorial collaborators, we are subgranting funds to for the Unmonument Initiative. The Boston Public Art Triennial, formerly known as Now and There, is presenting a temporary public art installation for this summer. This proposal is on BPDA property and falls within the purview of the Boston Art Commission. I'll hand it over to Jasper Sanchez now to present.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasper Sanchez. I use he, they pronouns. I'm joining you from our offices in the Leather District, and I'm Boston Public Art Triennial's assistant curator. Quick context for those who are unfamiliar with our work. We are a 501c3 nonprofit public art curator with the mission of making space in Boston more open, equitable, and vibrant with the power of art and community. What you're looking at on this screen is Lot Lab 2023. Lot Lab is a mission of ours to transform an underutilized space in a Boston neighborhood with art and community. And so this one was presented at the abandoned parking lot next to the Hoosac Stores warehouse building in partnership with the National Park Service last year. Next slide, please. To situate us geographically, what you're looking at on the bottom left is where Lot Lab was last year. This year, Lot Lab is in a different location. The Hoosac's Tunnel Docks building is coming down, and they're building the Gateway Center for NPS there. So we have been relocated to this really wonderful elevated parcel of grass at the intersection of First Ave and 5th Street. I'm really in the heart of the Navy Yard. Lot Lab 2024 will feature 2 works by Matthew Okazaki and Yetti Frenkel, which we briefly saw earlier in that parcel of grass. But today I'll be talking to you about Gulfstream. Gulfstream is located in Dry Dock 2. It's within the sight lines, just a couple meters away from Lot Lab. And it's going to be where this question mark sculpture is. That work was produced by our friends, the Navy Yard Garden and Art, who are the stewards of the space. Next slide, please. And so Gulfstream is by Hugh Hayden, and Hugh Hayden is a nationally acclaimed artist known for transforming wood into surreal installations. He uses the medium to explore the complexities of the human condition and systems of oppression embedded within American society and culture. Gulfstream is a hybrid sculpture built in the tradition of clinker boats with a carved skeletal interior. And it's presented here, bringing Hayden's investigations into the heart of revolutionary Charlestown. The boat itself and the artwork is inspired with some art historical precedents. It's named after an original painting, Gulfstream, from 1899 by Winslow Homer, Boston-born and bred painter and American landscape artist. And Gulfstream has been reinterpreted a few times. In 2003, the painting in the middle on the bottom here was presented by Carrie James Marshall. And our iteration of Gulfstream is going to build upon that. And it's actually being recontextualized with paint to resemble another 1899 painting by Winslow Homer called After the Hurricane on the bottom right. So it'll have a layer of white with a blue stripe on the bottom. So this work, we're recontextualizing it, particularly because it alludes to the lives lost at sea during the Middle Passage. Presented here, it's inviting consideration of Boston's role as a major port city during the transatlantic slave trade, and we're also situating it near the USS Constitution, really highlighting how our nation's prized vessel, the oldest commissioned warship in the world, has a hull made of live oak timbers dangerously harvested by enslaved labor on the coastal islands of Georgia. So we're just continuing the work that Hugh does, really looking at American society and culture. And by recontextualizing Gulfstream here, we hope it's a poignant reminder of the lives that have contributed to the wealth of this nation, a temporary monument really to that brings to light the presence of Black history, often overlooked in the telling of Boston's colonial narratives and embedded within our symbols of American heritage. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief look at Hugh. I already read a bit about his bio, but past projects of his in the public realm have grappled with disparities in the education system. On the bottom left is a piece of his at Madison Square Park called Briar Patch. And recently he completed a commission for the Decor of a sculpture park and museum called Huff and a Puff, inspired by Walden Pond. Next slide, please. Gulfstream itself is a lone work, so it's prefabricated. It was originally commissioned by Public Art Fund and exhibited in Black Atlantic, an exhibition featuring all Black artists presented at Brooklyn Bridge Park in 2022. It was made by a really talented atelier in New York out of an Atlantic setter and white oak brass hardware. Next slide, please. I'll hand it over to Leo Crowley, our project director, and he'll talk through some of the project site details as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jasper. Good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be here today. We are in contact with the BPDA and have submitted all the requested materials, specifics regarding Gulfstream, the dimensions, weight, placement, installation plan. We've completed their term sheet, provided a certificate of insurance listing them as additionally insured, and a letter of support from the Navy Yard Garden and Art. The BPDA board will be meeting to review on Thursday of this week. Due to the duration that this project will be up, they needed a full board review. After the board meeting, we will review and sign a license agreement, and then we plan to install all of the Lot Lab projects, including Gulfstream, the first week of June, 6/3 to 6/7. Next slide, please. As part of Lot Lab 2024, Gulfstream will be installed in early June, as I mentioned. The opening celebration will be on Monday, June 10th. Here we have a bit of the timeline. The restoration and painting is being completed by the studio. The piece will be prepared for shipping on the 17th. It will ship on the 3rd, and we will install and remediate the site. And time for our opening on Monday the 10th. And then the piece will be on exhibition from June 10th until the end of October. And we will conduct regular maintenance checks. We have public art ambassadors who will be on site at least 2 to 3 days a week. And we will also be conducting sites ourselves. We have a production partner who will be handling any occurrences that should they crop up in need of repair or in maintenance. And then we will deinstall. We're aiming for the first week of November. Next slide, please. As Jasper mentioned, Gulfstream is approximately 14 feet in length by 6 feet in width by 3.5 feet in height, and it weighs around 2,000 pounds. It's going to be shipped to the site via truck and unloaded using a hydraulic lift that will be driven by a licensed and OSHA certified operator. It will be overseen by members of our production team, along with our production partners at BRM Production Management. The sculpture sits on a stabilizing wooden cradle that will be attached to the ground utilizing 4 anchors. And then this process will be reversed for the deinstall and the site returned to its original condition. Next slide, please. Here we can see the cradle that the boat rests on. And you can see the holes and the threaded anchors that will be used to secure the piece to the ground. Right now, you're seeing depicted an asphalt anchor. We have yet to determine whether or not we'll be using asphalt anchors or ground anchors. It'll depend on what's underneath the brick as we go to install. Next slide, please. As Gulfstream was built and designed to be exhibited outdoors, it should require very little maintenance. We will have a minimum twice weekly visual checks to ensure the sculpture and signage are secure and free of vandalism. We have a defined communication tree to ensure that prompt resolution should any safety or aesthetic issues arise. And as I mentioned, we have a contract with BRM that covers the entire exhibition term and stipulates that any necessary maintenance will be performed expediently. We also have a contract with the artist stipulating that should it be deemed necessary by the Boston Public Art Triennial, the piece will be removed immediately or stored or returned to the artist. Next slide, please. I'll hand it back to Jasper.
Thank you, Leo. And I'll jump back in just to talk a little bit about our partnership. This exhibition features 3 artworks touching on everything from Japanese incarceration during World War II to legacies of enslaved ancestors in Charlestown and the stories relating to the USS Constitution. We are in partnership with the National Park Service, but we're also programming throughout the summer with the Charlestown's Kennedy Center, Boston Harbor Now, and Navy Yard Garden and Art, who are the stewards of the site and typically present public artworks at Dry Dock 2, but they've invited us to present this work in the location as they don't have a public art program for this upcoming year. Hugh also has an upcoming solo exhibition at the Rose Art Museum at Brandeis University. And we are in partnership and ongoing conversations with curators and programmers from the Rose Art Museum and from the De Cordova Museum to have some educational programs relating to Hugh's project, tours, panels, and more throughout the summer. Next slide, please. And that's all we had for you today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jasper and Leo. I now would open it up to any commissioners who would like to ask a question or make a comment. I am curious, Jasper and Leo, are members of the public able to enter into the ship?
Yes,
Well, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Jasper.
I was going to say, while it's not meant to be entered or used in that way, it is designed to withstand that weight and that wear and tear. It was at a very busy park in Brooklyn for many months. So I think it'll hold up to what Charlestown has for it.
I have a question. I'm curious, all three projects, the one that you're presenting today, and then the other two that were in the slide deck, I think lend themselves to public conversation about important issues and experiences. And I'm wondering whether this commission or Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture or the triennial, what your plans may be for public communication, promotion, press, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a public art ambassador program in which we will have people on site who are engaging with the public to ask them questions about how the piece resonates with them, as well as engagement activities to invite the public in to participate. As well, we'll have project signage, project-specific signage that talks about the piece and the artist, its thematic elements, and links to a QR code to a website with more robust information. We also have a series of programs throughout the summer that we'll be hosting that will interact with these pieces in various ways and help to explain and walk through the thematic elements. One of the things that we like about these pieces is that we feel that they can really interact with the public in a myriad of ways. They're beautiful pieces in and of themselves aesthetically, and so they're eye-catching, and they can add to the beauty of one's everyday walking commute or experience walking through the Navy Yard. But they really can reward a deeper exploration and to help encourage people to explore some undertold stories and to grapple with some of the more difficult narratives of our home.
Yes, thank you for that, Leo. And also to respond to your inquiry, we have also prepared a resource sort of guide or list for our website, and that our public art ambassadors will have, really defining lots of the terms that come up in the work. We've defined things like the Middle Passage, the transatlantic slave trade, a D-Ray, the textiles Ife uses, Japanese incarceration camps, so that anyone who isn't familiar with these terms and wants to learn more and do further reading can look into them. And I've compiled a bibliography of all of the sources the artists use that inform their designs as well.
Thank you.
I have a question, and I'd like to follow up on, you had mentioned that the ship or it was able to have people get into it. And so I'm wondering how might that come about, and are there any cautions to that effect should that happen?
Absolutely. So it's difficult to see here, but an important part of this presentation are the boulders that are around it. So in the photographs that we showed of it being previously installed with the bases, it doesn't have the boulders around it because they hadn't been placed yet. So our vision for how we're placing it in this slot isn't to have the boat stand alone so that people can access it. There's going to be a perimeter, a couple feet around the circle of boulders surrounding this boat that will act as a natural deterrent to people climbing over the boulders and getting into the work.
We have used, do not climb signs in the past, and we can account for that with signage. In my experience, they can only be somewhat successful. So all of the engineering that we do assumes that a person of 300 pounds or 300 pounds or so can climb on it without any risk. And this is engineered to withstand much heavier weights than that. So safety-wise, there aren't concerns there. Now, whether or not that is damaging to the boat, it shouldn't be unless somebody is really nefarious.
Any other commissioners with questions or comments? I now invite any members of the public who'd like to ask a question or make a comment?
This is Elizabeth Millard. I just want to say I think it looks beautiful. I can't wait to see it.
Thanks so much, Liz.
Thank you.
Well, I'm curious if any commissioner would like to make a motion.
I can make a motion to
Thanks, Brian.
approve final design of Gulfstream for Dry Dock 2 at Charleston Navy Yard.
I'll second.
Thanks, Cara. Commissioners, after I say your name, please say yes if you support the motion. Camilo?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Abigail?
Yes.
And I say yes as well. So the motion passes. Congratulations. Excited to see this in the Navy Yard. The next project for review are 3 long-term artworks by Priscila De Carvalho at the Adams Street branch of the Boston Public Library in Dorchester, proposed by project manager Amber Torres. As a reminder, during preliminary design review, commissioners gave feedback on the design and concept. Priscilla will return to the BAC for final design review to ensure consistency with preliminary design and to share fabrication, installation, and maintenance plans.
Thank you, John. It looks like the slide is stuck. Do we want to just check if that's a technical issue? Thank you. You can go ahead to the next slide. The Adams Street Branch Library underwent a $12.6 million renovation in 2021, led by the architecture firm Nada. It doubled the size of the branch and featured a large community room, conference room, a music room, and a reading garden. Next slide. Sorry, I'm on. You can go back to the previous screen. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture was brought on board to manage a call to artists for 3 long-term exterior artworks funded through Percent for Art in partnership with the Boston Public Library. The budget for this public art project is $300,000. We released the call to artists in 2020, looking for proposals that showed consideration of the neighborhood, site and theme, and demonstrated experience in public art. Priscila De Carvalho is the artist that was selected for this opportunity. Next slide. New York-based artist Priscila De Carvalho is a multimedia artist working with public art, painting, sculpture, and site-specific installations. Her visual narratives range from urban environments to social, economic, and political content. The artist has exhibited widely, nationally, and internationally. If you would like to learn more about her and read her bio, you can learn more on the project page, which we'll add to the chat. Next slide, please. The original sites identified in the RFP were for 3 exterior locations in the Reading Garden and the Rain Garden. Next slide. Priscilla and I had our first site visit November 2022. After the artist talk and discussions with librarians, library goers, and my director, Karen Goodfellow, we worked with the Boston Public Library to identify additional sites that would better complement 2-dimensional artwork. We identified an additional fence and 3 interior walls as potential sites for artwork, 2 potential walls in the children's section, and 1 wall in the adult section. Next slide. You could go back 1, please. Thank you. Over the course of the design process, we had several discussions with the BPL about honoring artwork and design elements that already existed in the space, including an MDF artwork in the children's section, a terracotta wall in the reading garden, Nada's concept of a calm zone as seen in the top image, and we were also advised to work around the clock that currently hangs in the adult section. Ultimately, the BPL approved 3 sites for artwork at the Adams Street Library, 2 exterior sites in the reading garden, the fence, and the plant bed on the far left, and 1 additional interior wall in the adult section. Next slide. Priscilla hosted an artist talk on February 15th, 2023, with the goal of getting input from local residents before starting the design. The presentation was streamed live on Instagram, where it has 469 views. In addition to the artist talk, we also shared 2 surveys, once before beginning the design phase, and once when the designs were complete. Next slide. This spring, when the designs were complete, I worked with MOAC's Cultural Planning Project Manager to make local connections for input on the designs. We were able to connect with the Irish Pastoral Center, Viet Aid, library goers, and parents and students at the Kenya Elementary School, and shared the second survey with them. So I want to take this moment to give a special thanks to all of the community members who have helped shape this project. And now I'll hand it over to Priscilla to present her designs.
Okay. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me. I am very excited to present my proposal, and I would like to share some ideas in how I came up with this public art project. So the project goals are to create a new experience for the community by blending a variety of images in a creative way and a vibrant manner. Also to create an artwork that has a strong visual presence, that I'm going to be using colors that are really bold, visible from a distance. And also ultimately is to celebrate the diversity of Dorchester. So next slide. So based on the go back to the, stay there. So based on the feedback received from the community engagement and the survey responses, I have developed 11 unique artwork to enrich the library. So I will begin by discussing the outdoor fence installation and elaborating like how my process is, approach, and all the inspiration behind it. So next slide. So as an immigrant myself, coming from Brazil and moving to US in the 90s, I have always questioned what it means to call a place home. Also, I have always, I always think about how can communities help you shape our sense of belonging. So my work is usually based upon identity, explore concepts of identity, home, and belonging. While I was doing the research for the community that lives in Dorchester, I found a very rich mix of culture, so including those from Vietnam, Cape Verde, Haiti, and Ireland, all shaping Adams Village. Inspired by this diversity that is there, my artwork proposal blends symbols reflecting on both my personal journey and the community experience. Next slide. So usually, typically, I begin by sketching these drawings and creating these black and white kind of paper cut compositions. And here you see an example of a flower, the hibiscus flower, symbolizing the beauty and resilience and representing the Haitian community. The next slide is the triple deckers. They are like a major feature in Dorchester, the Boston area. A lot of the community, they love them, or they just like, we see them too often. And but I thought it was really important to show them because they go back into, historically, they're very important because they go back to late 19th century where they housed family and waves of immigrants, mostly from Ireland and South Europe. So they're very iconic of the area. So next slide. Next. Okay, thank you. So that's the photograph of the existing location and the existing fence where I'm going to install the artwork. So next, move to the next rendering. And that's the artwork for the fence, which consists in 2 layers. So the first layer is a solid circular metal panels that represent the sun. In my work throughout my career, I have always included a sun as a motif, symbolic, representing the passage of day and new beginnings. So in the next slide, you will see that in an angle, you see that this second layer is welded to the top of the first layer. So it's going to add like a relief technique into it. So the artwork it will be integrated into the fence without altering any of the aesthetics, the appeal. So we're not going to alter, we're going to make a strap bracket in the back. So we attach in a way that it can be removable. I hope you don't remove it, but it will be removable. So next. This freestanding sculpture proposal, we can move to the image, next slide. So this is some source of, again, referencing the sculpture. So this sculpture that is going to be a freestanding sculpture, and it's going to be modeled after the ship. So you see the image of the ship. The ship was called Susan and Ellen and arrived in Boston in 1638, carrying a wave of Irish immigrants to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. So the sculpture will ultimately take a sort of a shape of that ship. And then you see other images there that I'm going to discuss them on the next slide. So after engaging with the community, I got an email from a student that was at the library that day that I was giving the artist talk, and he mentioned about how the music is very important in Haiti culture. So he mentioned about adding people playing music in the sculpture, and about the tabun. The tabun is a national music instrument and a type of barrel drum from Haiti. In Brazil, we have something very similar too that we play in Carnival. So I was happy to add that to give a vibe of celebration. Next slide, please. That's the site showing the how's the site look like right now, and that's where the freestanding sculpture will be placed. Next. So the proposal artwork consists in in showing all the local architecture. So they didn't want to add too much of a triple decker. They said we see it often, so I left that for the fence, and I decided to include some Victorian houses and some patterns that you see in the bottom, which are related to African textile patterns originating from Haiti and West Africa. I love this addition because I feel that it's very important, the fabric and the texture, especially about the woman, the attire, how they wear. It marks so many different milestones, new birth, and I really love the way it is added to the sculpture. So next slide, you will see that's a close up, and you see the images in a smaller scale. You will see the scenes of children hiding a bicycle and a father carrying the child on his shoulders, invoking like a sentiment of a familial love and connection, and obviously the celebration with the drums and kind of a vitality that comes from the streets. The next slides, next slide, thank you. So in addition to these elements, I also included a silhouette image of a Hanoi Temple of Literature, which represented, going back, that's right there, and the Vietnamese community, and symbolize scholarship and learning. So this is it's existing as a landmark, as a historical landmark in Hanoi. So I decided to include that, and I thought that aligns really well with the symbolism of like learning and scholarship, aligns with the library, the missions of the library. So we can talk about the next slide now, is the free interior, the proposal for the interior wall artwork. So next. And here are the proposed sites. So we had 3 sites. I designed 3 artwork to go in each wall, this triangle shape walls. And one of them has been approved and the other one are not approved, as you can see. And then there is an existing wall there with mammals. So I think the architects kind of like already add some kind of imagery in the wall nearby. So the next slide shows following that line of thought, the selection of animals and plants, I decided to include these species of native of northern East Boston region. And also you see them here in New York too, some of these adorable species. So next. And see, here's the illustration of all of them. And I put a blue-black background to create more visibility so you can see them. So now let's look at the illustration, the next slide. So here's how I work. I usually, my proposal for the side, for the interior walls, I am going to use like a cutout a birch plywood, like an inch off the wall, and I'm gonna hand paint. That's an image of a painting that I've been working on, and I work with spray paint, and I combine a lot of masking, a lot of airbrushing. So it gives, and then on the left has a NYC panel there. That was for the Department of Transportation in New York City. And that's a wood panel that it has vinyl on it. But I usually, for this one, the proposal is to actually paint. So, and you see some of the shapes, how it's gonna look on the cutout Baltic birch plywood right below. So that's kind of my method. The next slide, please. Here's how they're gonna look render in the space and in the library. And we can move to the next slide. Finally, each of the 3 sites and their respective artworks. And we move to the following proposal schedule. Next slide, thank you. So once I get the this approved, hopefully approved, and we will move to final construction. I need the construction drawings, the final construction drawings from the city. And once I get that in hand, I will work into engineering. So we are looking into have 50% of the fabrication around October, 100% fabrication end of December, and fully install hopefully September and March when it's very cold, so it's gonna be fun. And then we are going to move to the next slide. Preliminary, preliminary project budget is the total cost for this artwork is 300,000. Which is 180 is allocated for fabrication. The remaining amount covers contingency, artist fee, and general expenses. I do have to say that there is to take a note that one of the materials has to be aluminum to fit the budget, or we have to eliminate another proposal, which I think that we can talk about it later. If you have any questions, please ask me, and thank you so much for having me.
Priscilla, thank you so much for this and for your presentation. It's really great to see these preliminary designs. Camila, I'll pass it to you.
Sorry, I'm having troubles with my mute button here. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for presenting. The commission will now have the opportunity to ask any additional questions. After the commissioner question and answer, we may invite the public to make any comments. Do I have any commissioner questions?
Priscilla.
As we do not. Anyone?
Oh, let me ask one question, Priscilla. I'm
okay.
really excited to see all of this. Could you just talk a bit briefly about the pedestal for the sort of standalone sculptural element?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I'm thinking in creating a platform, like a concrete platform. That is also the possibility of doing something with metal, and that is going to be sort of round, maybe a little bit over a foot, depending how deep we go into the ground. But it will sort of follow the shape. We are going to work with, excellent like Massachusetts engineering to make sure that no one will push it and flip it. So it has to have like a base a little bit, substantially. And I have been to the site, and we have the space for it. It's not something that is going to be a giant sculpture, and it's not going to carry. We are looking to maybe 200 pounds a weight of metal, and that's going to be more. I can definitely get into detail when we move forward and I talk to my team.
Thank you so much.
Any other commissioners? I would suggest maybe for that ship sculpture that's going to be basically in the ground, I think it makes a great metaphor to incorporate the landscape beneath it. So perhaps the sculpture itself is anchored by, let's say, a concrete base that's buried into the ground. I mean, that would probably make it easier presentation-wise as well. That's just a suggestion, of course. Do any other commissioners have any queries, concerns?
Camilo, may I say something?
Priscilla? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. The thing is that in the space, there is this bench.
So if we do put the sculpture right, which is a great idea, it will kind of cover, because they're sitting, it's a reading, a space where people sit, and they will be able to see the sculpture from behind and take photos and things. But the thing is that it will be very close to if it's really close to the ground, the sculpture we need to use more metal, more artwork so you're able to see it more, because I'm thinking of a 6 foot 72 inches from the platform, from the base up, and which is not too big. It's like the size of a tall person standing, and then the base is like a foot, but that is concrete seating and laying around, so for the seating, so it kind of is right in and it obscures the image of the sculpture if it's coming from the ground, So that's one, but I obviously can work with anything that you recommend.
So let's say that probably the bench is about 36 inches high. So you're looking at probably a pedestal that sits above. So it should be probably 3 feet high in order for it not to be obscured by the bench, which would actually make a great Instagram moment. People sitting at the bench with the sculpture in the background.
Yeah, that's so too. Seating, great. Yeah, great promotion for the library.
Paul, can you go to slide 75 so we can see?
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, that's the concrete base there.
I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
Commissioners, does anybody have any more questions?
Actually, I had one more question. Oh, go ahead, Brian. You go.
No, I was just gonna. Can you go forward maybe one slide to see the? There we go. Priscilla, it's fun to see you incorporating all of the imagery, and I think that's kind of pulled from that community process, which it's exciting to see that kind of show up in the work of art itself. One of my considerations for this piece is maybe just kind of like readability of the piece. So there's a lot going on in terms of imagery, and then also recognizing that you will be able to kind of see through, I think, this piece to maybe the fence behind it, and just making sure that the imagery is readable from a distance. So for example, are there opportunities to maybe simplify some of the shapes so that it is as readable as possible for folks who are kind of maybe seeing it from that plaza space. I don't know if that kind of makes sense or is helpful, but that would just be kind of a general feedback, I think, for me.
Thank you, Brian. I have a comment. So one idea too, because to do this type of rendering, we can go into the close-up rendering. I think the next image, the slide. Can we? Yeah. So I'm thinking some of these openings there, also using a different color and making a relief. Like little shapes that so it's not going to be all opening see-through. That was another idea that I had, but I just didn't have time to back and forth. As you know, I proposed like quite a few, like 11 designs. So that's another idea to answer your question, to use. I have done that for the MTA here in New York City, and we had a little extra budget, and then we ended up adding instead of the openings, we had like a relief that takes in different colors too. Yeah, so it was nice too.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question, Camilo. For the piece that's affixed to the fence, not sure where that image is. I'm curious about how it's affixed, namely, the design is legible, obviously, in approaching that fence, but what will be seen on the other side of it?
Well, great question. When I visit the site a few times, that is like a parking for the library, and I saw a car there. So I'm not really thinking the backing deserves. This is mainly for the
that's it, only one side of the fence. So it's not going to take both places, because behind I saw cars. It looks like there is a garage. So I think that the fence is going to be most of the time. We can confirm that again, but I think it's going to be blocked and not seen often. And it's kind of like obscure. The location is not so, there's not much visibility. Only if you walk down the street and you will see it, the backing of the panels. And we can make sure that we have everything sort of like, it's not, probably it's not going to be painted in the back, or I need to discuss further in terms of like budget, what are we doing with that. But we am working in a way that it works from the view of entering the library and exiting and being around the reading garden that is there, and the events that take place in there. So, but we can look into more, but I think that is the passage behind is blocked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and probably at minimum, maybe the same paint used for the fence color could be the back of it, just to kind of make it more of a,
Yes, I also think it's a good idea.
And I would say one of the things I like about this design too, so thinking about this design and the interior murals that we looked at, the circular elements of this kind of interact nicely with the kind of architecture of the fence, right? So it kind of like grounds the imagery on the fence itself. And then if we could go forward to the interior murals. Here we go. I really like, so, on the image on the left, how we're seeing that kind of circle and the image kind of go up to the border of the kind of architecture itself is really nice. I'm wondering if there are ways to think about maybe kind of incorporating the imagery kind of into the architecture a little bit more, so that they don't feel so much as if they're just kind of floating, but really incorporated into the architecture of the space in a way, to kind of ground the imagery within the space itself. Would be maybe some feedback here.
Yeah, I would love to. I actually, my first presentation was with something in the background, was a gradient in covering all the background. But then we went for, I had so many different feedbacks from Amber presented to me. And then we talked so many times over, and I did so many different sketches, and I came out, and the final feedback that I received, that it has to be, the colors had to be contained, so it couldn't be spread. They wanted to keep very minimal, so I had to work with that a guideline, I say, and then that's why it looks that way. But the idea was to kind of make it use the whole space and make it even for the other walls, do something more, and that's why it looks. But I can obviously propose something that you suggested, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Priscilla.
Paul, can you show that slide that shows the architect's rendering of the white space?
Yeah, it's one of the maps in the beginning. It's the last or second map, I think.
So one thing Amber and Priscilla were navigating was that we're coming in here after the architect's vision has been set. And part of that, yeah, I can tell you which slide it is. Part of that is that they didn't want color being brought in. So we were navigating sort of the community interest in bringing color, which we heard from the community meeting. And the architect's vision of it being that, oh, we just had it. Yep, that's it right there. So if you see there, this is the architect's vision of the comm zone. And so the library, to whom we pitched all those other sites you saw, to sort of, we're hoping to address the community's interests and the librarian's interests by bringing some color in and activating the space a lot more. However, because we were coming in later to the project, and they had committed to this this vision of a sort of white calming space. We are trying to sort of balance between those and doing our best to do so. But that I think was part of their pushback on it being a little bit more across the space with those triangular sections. And we're still asking some questions, like we're still curious to understand why the clock can't be moved. Yeah, so all your feedback is really helpful, but you know, this is a preliminary design, so we'll take these and we'll come back again and then have more, but we might be able to answer any of the questions you are posing to Priscilla and to Amber better after we're able to bring them back.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Do we have any comments from the public, perhaps? John, should we set for the motion?
Sure. Karen, may I ask that we have said some things for Priscilla to consider, and Priscilla, thank you so much for your presentation here. Should we include those in the motion, or do you think we've provided enough sort of notes and context?
I think anything that you feel very clear about would be good to include in the motion. I think there's general feedback, but I think there's a lot more clarity. We tend to have these conversations and things get missed. So if it's not too troublesome, I do think including them is very helpful for us and also for our records going back.
Sure, sure. I would propose to make a motion, but I want to first confer with commissioners. I would ask that the legibility of the standalone sculpture, to Brian's point, be considered in final design. Brian, would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
And then for me, and I think Camila brought up a good point as well, just the consideration of the backside of the fence installation and how that appears. I know it is abutting a parking lot, but I still would like for the aesthetics of that to be considered, even if it's painted the same colors as the railings. Do commissioners agree that that is something that we should also consider?
Yes.
And then if any commissioners had any additional elements they'd like to include, or just those two?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about the clock, but I know we can't, so I'll just pass on that.
You know that adage, once a clock is placed, it's never moved. No, said no one ever. So who knows?
We're also happy to follow up on the some of the comments from the library and just do one last pressure test on those. I understand Priscilla and Amber, like, you know, if we're recommending something or asking for something, but you've already been given that constraint from the library, this is not to send you back down a path that you've already explored, but I think staff to staff, we can just do one last check to see if those things are truly the constraints as they've been communicated. So happy to take that on with the clock in particular.
Thanks, Kara. Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve preliminary design of Priscila De Carvalho's Adam Street Branch artworks with the proviso that consideration will be placed to the legibility of the standalone sculpture and consideration of the backside of the fence installation.
I can second that.
Thanks, Brian.
That was a nice motion, John. Nice job.
Thanks.
Yes.
I wrote it down.
So shall we place it for a vote from the commissioners? John?
Yes.
I am a yes as well. Kara?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes as well.
Nigel?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
and Abigail.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Priscila. Thank you, everyone, for presenting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, excited to see final design when it comes back around, Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Well, now our last order of business is a motion to adjourn. I'm sitting looking out at the water and it looks beautiful, so I'm sure it will be unanimous. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will place a motion to adjourn.
Thanks,
this
Camilo. Do I have a
evening,
second?
May 14th.
Yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Cara. Commissioners, when I call your name, say yes if you agree with the motion. Camilo?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Nigel?
Yes.
James?
Yes, indeed.
And Abigail?
Yes.
And I vote yes too. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for your work here. And thanks, of course, and congratulations to all of the artists who presented their work here today. Have a good night.
Have a good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
That's it. Amber's like, good night. I'm done. Is that Moak, Amber, or Moak, or Paul,
Hi.
you?
Sorry, just my double,
Yeah.
my chat computer. Sorry, there seemed to be a lag between presentation slides.
Yeah, that's okay. I think you can turn off the recording
Oh,
too
yes,
now.
that's the thing I always forget. Stop.